What if I told you that by 10 o'clock tonight, you've already decided whether tomorrow will be a win or a loss? Not when your alarm goes off, not when you drag yourself out of bed. Right now, in the quiet hours when no one is watching, your discipline is either being forged or burned to ash. The thumbnail you just saw says perfect next to night habits and money psychology next to the name Morgan Housel, the man who wrote The Psychology of Money. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never realize. Millionaires don't become more disciplined every morning. They become more disciplined every night. You've been fighting the wrong battle. You wake up determined, you set goals, you promise yourself today will be different. But by 3 in the afternoon, your energy crashes. By 8, you're scrolling. By midnight, you're lying awake, wondering why you can't get your life together. Let me show you what's really happening and why the next 8 hours will either make you or break you. Most people believe discipline is a morning war. They think if they can just force themselves to wake up earlier, run faster, plan better, then victory is theirs. But that's like trying to win a marathon by sprinting the first mile and ignoring that your shoes are filled with broken glass. Your night habits are the broken glass. You fail your day not when you hit snooze. You fail it the night before, while you're half watching a video you won't remember, eating something you didn't want, and telling yourself, just 5 more minutes. Here's a pattern interrupt that should terrify you. Neuroscientists have found that your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-control, decision-making, and long-term planning, loses up to 20% of its effectiveness after 10 p.m. if you've been staring at blue light and consuming content all evening. 20%. That means every night you spend glued to a screen, you're not relaxing. You're borrowing tomorrow's willpower at an interest rate that would make a loan shark blush. And the wealthy? They figured this out decades ago. Morgan Housel wrote that wealth is what you don't see. The restraint, the patience, the invisible choices. Discipline is exactly the same. It's not the heroic morning run that everyone applauds. It's the boring, unsexy decision at 9:47 p.m. to put the phone in another room. So let me walk you through the 4 night habits that actually make millionaires more disciplined every day. Not the fluff you hear from self-proclaimed gurus, but the psychological anchors that rewire how your brain operates while you sleep. And I'm going to start with the one that feels the most painful, the digital boundary. The competitor script called it a digital sunset, but let's be real. That phrase sounds gentle, almost optional. It's not optional, it's a lifeline. Here's what most people never realize. You don't have a phone addiction. You have a boundary deficiency. You haven't taught your nervous system that nighttime is sacred. Every time you pick up your phone after 9, you're telling your brain, we're still on alert. Danger might come in the form of an email, a notification, a comment. Your brain responds by suppressing melatonin, the hormone that tells your body to rest. That's why you feel sleepy but can't sleep. That's why your mind races with conversations that didn't happen, tasks you didn't finish, comparisons that cut your confidence to ribbons. A millionaire I once read about, let's call him David, was worth over $8 million but couldn't close a single deal without anxiety. He slept 4 hours a night, drank coffee until 2 p.m., and then crashed with Netflix until 1 a.m. He thought he was grinding. He was actually disintegrating. One night after a particularly humiliating meeting where he forgot a client's name, he threw his phone across the bedroom. It cracked the screen, and in that crack, he saw something ugly. He wasn't busy. He was afraid of silence. Afraid of being alone with his thoughts. So he made a rule. No phone after 9. No excuses. The first 3 nights felt like withdrawal. The 4th night, he cried. Not from sadness, from relief. He hadn't realized how loud his notifications had been until they went quiet. Within 60 days, his sleep efficiency improved by 30%. His decision fatigue vanished. He started waking up before his alarm, not because he forced himself, but because his body had finally learned that night meant rest, not resistance. That's the first habit, not digital sunset. Call it what it is, a declaration of self-respect. The second night habit is where most people get it dangerously wrong. The competitor script mentioned, prepare tomorrow. Write down your top 3 priorities. Yes, but let me deepen that until you feel it in your chest. You can't sleep because your brain is a taxi driver with a broken meter, driving in circles all night. The fare, your peace. Every unresolved question. What should I do first? Did I forget something? What if I fail? Keeps the engine running. Morgan Housel talks about how money compounds when you leave it alone. The same is true for your anxiety. It compounds when you leave it unexamined. So here's the millionaire's secret. They don't just write a to-do list. They write a contract with their future self. They ask, what 3 things, if I accomplish them tomorrow, would make me feel like the day was a victory? Not 20 things. Not the urgent but unimportant junk. 3. And they write them down in a specific place: a notebook, a whiteboard, a notes app that is not connected to social media. Why does this work? Because your brain has a feature called the Zeigarnik effect. It remembers incomplete tasks better than completed ones. That nagging feeling you have at 2 a.m., that's your brain holding an open loop, waiting for closure. When you write down exactly what you'll do tomorrow and when you'll do it, your brain finally says, "Oh, okay, we have a plan. I can stop reminding you now." One entrepreneur I worked with, she was stuck, anxious, uncertain whether she should keep her business alive. Every night she lay awake replaying her failures. I asked her, "Do you know what you'll do at 9 a.m. tomorrow?" She said, "I don't know. Work on something?" That vagueness was torture. So she started a 10-minute ritual. At 10 p.m., she wrote down 3 moves, not dreams, not goals, but physical actions. Call the supplier at 9:15. Write the email to the client by 11. Spend 30 minutes on the proposal after lunch. The first week, nothing changed. The second week, she slept 6 hours straight for the first time in a year. The third week, her mind stopped spinning. Within 90 days, her revenue doubled. Not because she worked harder, because she stopped fighting fog every morning. When you wake up with clarity, you don't need willpower. You just need to follow the map you drew the night before. That's the second habit, the blueprint. Now the third habit, closing unfinished work. The competitor script touched on this, but let me pull back the curtain on why it's the most psychologically devastating trap for most people. You have small tasks you avoided today, an email you didn't send, a call you didn't make, a dish you left in the sink. Your brain remembers each one like a tiny splinter. At night, those splinters become infections. They show up as overthinking, restlessness, and that horrible feeling that you're forgetting something important. Here's the counterintuitive insight. Closing unfinished work doesn't mean finishing everything. That's impossible and exhausting. It means giving your brain permission to stop. The Millionaire's habit is a shutdown ritual. A 5-minute scan of the day where you ask, what did I avoid? Why? Then you do one of 2 things. If the task takes less than 2 minutes, you do it right then. Not tomorrow, not soon, now. Because 2 minutes of discomfort now saves you 2 hours of rumination later. If the task takes longer, you write down exactly when you will do it tomorrow, with a timestamp. I will call the bank at 10:15 a.m., not sometime in the morning, a specific time. When you do that, your brain releases the open loop. It relaxes. I remember reading about a hedge fund manager who had a simple rule. Before leaving his desk at night, he would say out loud, "I have completed what I could. The rest is scheduled." He said those words acted like a key turning in a lock. His sleep quality improved so much that he stopped needing an alarm. Pattern interrupt. Procrastination is not laziness. It's a fear response. And at night, fear has a microphone. The only way to mute it is to confront it in writing. So tonight, take 3 minutes. Review your day. Find one thing you avoided. If it's quick, do it. If it's not, write down the exact time you'll handle it tomorrow. That's not discipline. That's mercy. And mercy is what allows you to rest. The fourth night habit is the foundation of all the others. And yet it's the one most people sabotage without realizing it. A fixed sleep window. Not go to bed when you're tired. Because tired has become a meaningless word in a world of caffeine and blue light. A fixed sleep time, the same hour every night, even on weekends. Why? Because your body runs on an internal clock called the circadian rhythm, and that clock does not care about your excuses. When you sleep at 11 p.m. one night and 1 a.m. the next, you're essentially giving your brain jet lag every single day. That's not dramatic. That's biology. Morgan Housel wrote that the hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. The hardest discipline skill is getting the bedtime to stop moving. Let me give you a statistic that changed how I think about this. If you shift your bedtime by just 2 hours on Friday and Saturday, what most people call living a little, you create a social jet lag that reduces your cognitive performance on Monday by the equivalent of pulling an all-nighter. One study from the Journal of Sleep Research found that every hour of social jet lag increases the risk of depression by 11%. 11% for 1 hour. Now here's the reframe that millionaires understand. Consistency isn't boring. It's compound interest for your willpower. Imagine 2 people. Person A sleeps 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 365 nights a year. Person B sleeps whenever, averaging the same total hours, but with a 2-hour variability. After 6 months, Person A has given their brain 1,095 hours of predictable recovery, Person B's brain is constantly confused, never fully deep sleeping, waking up in the middle of cycles. The difference isn't subtle. It's the difference between a scalpel and a butter knife. One cuts cleanly through the day, the other smears everything. I've seen struggling professionals turn their entire lives around with just one change. They pick a bedtime and they do not negotiate with themselves. Not because they're robots, but because they finally realize that every time they break their sleep window, they're stealing from tomorrow's focus, tomorrow's patience, tomorrow's ability to say no to the donut and yes to the workout. The wealthy protect their sleep like a vault because they know that discipline is a finite resource. And you can't manufacture more of it in the morning if you destroyed the factory the night before. So here's where the thumbnail comes full circle. Perfect night habits. The word perfect scares people. They think perfection means never failing, never scrolling, never having a late night. That's not the truth. Perfect, in the psychology of money and discipline, means non-negotiable structure. It means you have a system that catches you even when you fall. You don't need to be flawless tonight. You just need to start one habit. Just one. Turn off the phone at 9:15. Write down 3 priorities. Close 1 unfinished task. Set a fixed bedtime. And then do it again tomorrow. Because here's what most people never realize until it's too late. You are not afraid of failing tomorrow. You are afraid of proving that you don't care enough to prepare tonight. That's the hidden trap. That's why you scroll. Because scrolling is easier than admitting that your future matters to you. But you wouldn't be reading this if you didn't already know, somewhere deep, that you're capable of more. The question isn't, can you change? The question is, will you start tonight? Millionaires aren't smarter than you. They aren't luckier than you. They just learned a secret that you're learning right now. The war for tomorrow is won in the quiet hours of tonight. Every time you close the phone, pick up the pen and say, I matter enough to plan my tomorrow. You are not just building discipline. You are building self-respect. And self-respect is the only wealth that can never be taken from you. So tonight, choose one habit, just one, and watch what happens when you stop destroying your nights. Because your mornings are waiting. And for the first time, they'll be ready for you.